Fairy Tales. Read by Scribbler. Twilight ignored the tiny voice and just pulled the blanket over her head.
Twilight! Get up! Get up! Get up! Get up! Come on, you silly filly! It's time to wake up!
She knew there was no escaping it, no way to get around it. She gave a small yawn and sighed. Twilight was defeated. She knew she had to get up, but she really didn't want to. Once again, her conscience got the upper hoof and convinced her to do the right thing. Twilight slowly emerged from her blanket fortress and made her way out of bed. She began her walk to the bathroom, but she knew there was no escaping from her conscience.
Hey, you're up! Yay! Now we can have some fun!
Please, not today.
But Twilight, I can never, ever leave you. I'm your conscience, and it's my sworn duty to help you choose right from wrong.
Twilight turned her head to see her conscience sitting on a bar of soap next to the sink. She was just staring at Twilight with a serious look on her face. Well, as serious as a miniature Pinkie Pie sitting in your bathroom could be.
How about you take the day off?
No can do. A conscience needs to be on duty 24/7. With the occasional cupcake break.
The little Pinkie looked at her watch.
Which is now!
She said as a cupcake appeared out of thin air. The little Pinkie gladly gobbled it up in one bite. Twilight just rolled her eyes at the display. While her conscience was busy on her cupcake break, Twilight began to ready herself for the new day ahead of her. When she was finished, Twilight walked out of the bathroom and headed downstairs, her little Pinkie following her every step of the way. When Twilight got to the bottom of the stairs, she saw an unfortunate scene before her. Books were strewn everywhere, scrolls and quills amongst the mess of books. Twilight face-hoofed and fell onto her haunches. It would take her all day to clean this mess up. Unless...
No, Twilight, I know what you're thinking, and it's not the right thing to do.
Please, Pinkie, it'll only be this one time. I'll make sure to make it up to him eventually.
The little Pinkie shook her head.
No, Twilight, you are making the wrong decision.
But it'll take me all day to clean up this mess.
You made the mess on your own, so you should be the one to clean it up.
Pinkie said matter-of-factly.
I really don't think Spike would mind.
I don't care if he wants to do it. You made the mess, you clean it up.
Twilight groaned.
Fine,
she conceded. Twilight descended the staircase to the war zone below. She started to levitate books and put them into different categories for proper organization. The little Pinkie looked at her watch again and squealed in excitement.
Cupcake break!
She cheered as another cupcake materialized in front of her. Twilight face-hoofed and groaned once again. She wouldn't be seeing any of her friends today. Rainbow Dash loved flying fast. She loved the adrenaline pumping through her veins and the wind in her face. What she didn't like was her nagging conscience.
Rainbow Dash, I don't think you should do that.
Shut up! It's gonna work this time!
Dashy, as your conscience, it is my sworn duty to steer you in the right direction. And I think the right direction is not to try and do 5 sonic ring booms in a row.
Rainbow Dash ignored her conscience and began to fly faster, trying to fly away from it. She could never outfly it, though. The little floating Pinkie Pie would always be right there next to her. Dash was picking up speed fast, and within seconds, she broke the sound barrier.
One down,
she thought. One after another, the spectrum of colors lit up the sky. 2, 3, 4...
Come on! Just one more!
Rainbow Dash thought.
Go, Rainbow Dash!
The mini Pinkie shouted. In that split second, Rainbow Dash lost her concentration and was thrown back like a rubber band. She began to flail her legs and yell out, probably mentally cursing her little Pinkie conscience. The little Pinkie just stayed floating in place.
Was it something I said?
It was just another day out in the orchard for Applejack. Come to think of it, she was out here almost every day.
Wait, didn't I bug this tree yesterday? How in the Sam heck did the apples grow back that fast?
Despite her confusion, Applejack continued to buck apple tree after apple tree. When she was almost done for the day, she stopped in front of a particular apple tree. This one seemed vaguely familiar. Where had she seen this apple tree before?
Well, shoot, I bugged this tree yesterday. What in tarnation's going on here?
Applejack thought out loud.
Come on, AJ! There's no way you could have done that!
Applejack whipped her head around and saw her little Pinkie sitting on an apple.
No, I'm telling you, I bugged this here tree yesterday.
How could you possibly remember that? There are like, what, a bajillion trees here?
Actually, there are 100,452 trees in this here orchard. Counted them myself.
Applejack stated matter-of-factly.
Yeah, I'm just gonna stick to a bajillion.
Applejack rolled her eyes and then proceeded to buck the apple tree. In turn, the apples fell neatly into the buckets below.
But seriously, how could you know if you bucked that tree before?
Applejack pointed to a splatter of white paint that was on the bark of the tree.
Apple Bloom and her friends wanted to be Cutie Mark Crusader Painters, but she got some on this tree. I noticed it yesterday while I bucked the exact same tree.
Well, I can't help you there.
Now that I think of it, right after I finished apple book season, the apples were back the next day.
You mean the next episode?
Pinkie whispered.
Did y'all say something?
I said, are you sure they came back the next day?
Applejack narrowed her eyes.
Are you calling me a liar?
Pinkie's own eyes narrowed and looked deep into Applejack's inner soul.
I ain't calling you for dinner.
Pinkie shot back. Applejack ran full speed ahead towards Pinkie, and the little pony retreated instantly. Little Pinkie didn't watch where she was going and knocked into a tree. She turned her whole body around, only to come face to face with Applejack. The orange pony's forehead was right up against the bark of the tree, while Pinkie's whole body was up against it.
Now, what were you saying about me being a liar?
Before little Pinkie could defend herself, both ponies heard a faint scream. A few moments later, Applejack was able to recognize the voice as Rainbow Dash. Applejack, however, didn't let it stop her from seeking revenge on her conscience. She never got that revenge, however. Only seconds after Applejack identified the voice as Rainbow Dash, Dash herself came crashing through the tree Pinkie was against. Heads collided, and before any pony had time to blink, both were unconscious. Applejack was on the ground, while Dash was halfway through the tree. Applejack's little Pinkie just shook her head at the display. Soon after, Dash's Pinkie joined the other.
Well, this is a mess.
AJ's Pinkie said.
Yep.
The two Pinkies just floated there until a timer went off.
Cupcake break. Wow, Rarity, those outfits are really nice. And I can't believe you stayed up all night finishing them. Going against what I said.
Now, Pinkie, I know I should listen to you, but I really need to get these done. The clients are picking them up today. They should be here any minute.
The little Pinkie conscience was sitting on top of one of the ponykins that Rarity was currently working on. She was watching Rarity make the final touches before they would be worthy of showing to the clients.
So, Rarity, this is a really big and important order.
You are absolutely right. And to celebrate, I think I'm going to make you your very own outfit. Isn't that marvelous?
Little Pinkie's eyes brightened, and a smile was plastered on her tiny face.
Oh my goodness, then
Oh, darling, it's going to be spectacular. I already have a design in mind.
Rarity's thoughts were interrupted by the sound of a pony entering her boutique. She quickly left the room and made her way to the front of the store.
Welcome to the Carousel Boutique, where every garment is chic, unique, and magnifique. Oh, high stakes, shining sapphire. You must be here to pick up your order. Come right this way.
Standing in the doorway was a tan, muscular unicorn stallion with a rugged black mane. He had a pair of dice for a cutie mark. Next to him was a mare who bore a resemblance to Fleur-de-Lis, except she had blue hair instead of pink. Her cutie mark was a single sapphire stone.
Hello, Rarity. It's a pleasure to see you again.
High Stakes said in a slight Canterlot accent.
Oh, the pleasure is all mine.
Rarity led the pair to the back room where their order was. A blue dress with gold accents for Sapphire and a simple suit with a blue bow tie that matched Sapphire's dress. They were simple designs, but made with the best materials.
I must say, Rarity, you have outdone yourself. These outfits look marvelous.
High Stakes complimented.
Oh, why, thank you. I'm glad you like them.
While High Stakes and Rarity were talking, Mini Pinkie was sitting on top of one of the dresses, listening to their conversation. Every once in a while, Pinkie would make a comment, but would be silenced with a glance from Rarity.
Wow, you sure can talk for a long time, Rarity. I know I can talk for a long time, but you're right there with me. Oh, I just had a super terrific idea. You and me should have a talking contest. It would be so much fun. There'd be snacks and punch and all our friends would be there. And then, when it's over, we could have a party.
That was the last straw. Rarity snapped.
Shut up!
High Stakes was in the middle of a story of him at a casino, but stopped to raise an eyebrow at Rarity's little outburst. Rarity's eyes widened and her pupils shrank to the size of pinpricks.
No, not you. I wasn't saying that to you. I was referring to my sister. Yes, my sister. I saw her out the window over there with her friends. They were causing quite a ruckus. I hadn't had my morning coffee yet, so I'm a little on edge, so to speak. I'm sorry about that.
Rarity tried to give the most genuine smile she could make. It seemed to have worked because High Stakes began to laugh.
It's quite all right, Rarity. I can get quite high-strung if I don't have my share of coffee.
With High Stakes' story forgotten, Rarity continued with the sale. She had priced the dress and suit at 500 bits. High Stakes was hesitant for a few moments. He might have thought that was a bit of a stretch, no pun intended. Little Pinkie Pie, however, decided she needed to voice her opinion.
500 bits? It only cost you 100 to make.
Not now, Pinkie.
Rarity whispered as High Stakes was getting out the money.
Rarity, I am your conscience. You know what a conscience does, right?
Pinkie took her silence as a yes.
Well, then you should know that I can't let you overcharge this much for these outfits.
Pinkie, not now. There is a perfectly good reason for overcharging them, which I will tell you later.
Rarity, stop. This is not you. You are the element of generosity, not the element of trickery.
Pinkie, it was 100 bits to make, but my time and effort have come into play.
By this time, High Stakes had the money out and was about to give it to Rarity. That was before he just heard what she said.
It only took you 100 bits to make? I've heard of overcharging, but this is ridiculous. Just because I'm wealthy doesn't mean you can take advantage of me. Come, Sapphire, we're leaving.
Wait! Stakes, come back!
The pair walked out of the store and the door slammed shut behind them. Rarity stood there with tears in her eyes. Instead of making 400 bits, she had just lost 100 and a very good customer.
You!
She yelled, pointing an accusing hoof at little Pinkie.
This is all your fault!
Before anything else could happen, the little Pinkie disappeared in a puff of smoke. Rarity was left there alone to wallow in self-pity. Fluttershy was walking through the streets of Ponyville on a mission. Probably one of the most important missions of her life. It was a matter of life and death. She had to be extremely careful. One wrong move, and it was all over. Fortunately for Fluttershy, she only had to go grocery shopping once a week. Fluttershy would much rather stay in her cottage or be with her friends. She did need to eat, however, and so did her animals. Normally she wouldn't go alone, but all of her friends were unavailable, and she was running very low on food. Twilight was stuck at the library. Rarity was having a mental breakdown. Again. Rainbow Dash's head was stuck in a tree. Applejack was unconscious, and Fluttershy hadn't seen Pinkie in days.
What are you talking about, silly? I'm right here.
Fluttershy cringed slightly. She looked up at the sound of the voice to find that her little conscience was sticking out of her mane. Fluttershy, too, had her very own mini Pinkie conscience.
Oh, hello, Pinkie.
Fluttershy whispered.
Hi, Fluttershy. Any important moral decisions made today?
Pinkie Conscience asked.
No, not yet. Just what I expected.
Pinkie said, as some sort of board appeared in front of her. It was the size of Mini Pinkie and had the word Days Fluttershy hasn't made a decision with a 62 under it. Mini Pinkie erased the 62 and wrote a 63 in its place.
I think that's a new record. Oh no. Did I steal some pony else's record? Maybe I should give it back?
Fluttershy began to panic at the thought of stealing something and being in the middle of the spotlight. Mini Pinkie face-hoofed. Pinkie was sitting in her room, planning her next party, when a familiar face sat down next to her.
Howdy, Jiminy. How are you today?
Pinkie asked. The cute little cricket with a top hat, suit and little umbrella smiled up at Pinkie.
I'm fine, Pinkie. Thanks for asking.
No problem. I just want my conscience to be as happy as can be. Cupcake?
Pinkie asked as she slid a cupcake over to the cricket.
Don't mind if I do.
The night court was set to begin in a few minutes, much to Princess Luna's dismay. She hated the night court. It was just a bunch of whiny rich snobs that only wanted money. Pretty much the same as the day court, but at night.
Maybe we could just...
Luna face-hoofed. She knew that there was no way that her conscience would allow her to skip the night court. Luna sighed and turned around to see the little pink menace sitting on her dresser.
Pink One, why dost thou grace us with thy presence?
Because, silly little Luna, you don't have the best track record with decision-making.
Pinkie giggled.
We are guessing we shall never live that down.
Probably not.
Luna stopped dead in her tracks.
What hast thou sayest?
I sayest that there will probably always be one silly pony that never forgives you.
Luna just stared at Pinkie, her mouth open.
How could thou talk about this in such a happy demeanor?
A question, please?
Luna rolled her eyes and slouched a bit.
Like, how could you be in such a happy mood speaking about this topic?
Pinkie looked at Luna with surprise.
How?
We picked it up from the one known as Diamond Tiara.
7 dice. Never do that again.
We can do whatever we want.
Alright, miss. I'm Luna and so am I. It's time to go to court.
Actually, we think we are going to skip.
No, you can't. Ask your conscience. It is mine.
Stop, Pink One. We have heard that speech numerous times. Our mind is made up.
Well, I'm about to make it up.
Pinkie sort of threatened.
Your efforts will be futile. Now leave us at once.
Pinkie floated over to where Luna was and landed on her muzzle. She stared right into Luna's eyes.
No can do, Luna Poo.
Luna had had enough. It was one thing to disagree, but Pinkie had pushed her to her breaking point. Luna mustered up all the air she had in her lungs.
Pink One, thou shalt leave us alone. Thou hast crossed thine line. If thou choosest to disobey and to not leave, that will be the biggest mistake of thy life.
Pinkie was thrown into one of the walls of Luna's bedroom. When Luna finished speaking, Pinkie shook her head and gave a slight nod.
Alright, Luna, I'm going.
Pinkie said, as she floated past Luna, then out the door. Luna's eyes followed Pinkie until she left the room. Once Pinkie was out, Luna shut the door and turned her head.
It would seem that our voice has broken everything in the room.
Every piece of fine artwork or pottery, ruined. The pottery had been blown away and slammed against the wall, where it promptly shattered. The artwork was ripped, and the frames broken.
Sister, damn it.
After a hard day of ruling a country and controlling the sun, Celestia liked to unwind with a nice cup of tea and slice of cake. Today was more of a whole cake kind of day. Most of the staff at the castle knew that once the moon was raised, there should be tea and cake in Celestia's private quarters, and if any pony wanted to live another day, they wouldn't enter the room. There was one pony, however, that didn't abide by that standard, and by this point it's pretty obvious. Celestia's conscience.
Hey, Princess, what's shaking?
Celestia was not in the mood to deal with Pinkie, but it was in her nature to try and be nice.
Pinkie, as much as I love your company, would you mind leaving me alone, just for tonight?
Pinkie shook her tiny head.
I would do that. If I didn't have to try to stop you from eating that whole cake.
Celestia's head got to meet her hoof.
Please, Pinkie, just let me eat it.
No can do.
Just one piece then?
Celestia! This is for your own good! Next thing you know, you'll have eaten 2 slices, then 3! Soon the whole cake is gone, and once the whole cake is gone, eventually you'll have another, and another! After that, you'll get even fatter!
I'm not fat.
Then ponies will start to notice it! Then soon, some ponies might get the wrong idea and think you're pregnant! Then there'll be a whole scandal, and ponies will want you taken down from power, and before you know it, the whole world explodes!
Celestia gaped at Pinkie. Her explanation was going well until she brought up Equestria exploding. That part was a stretch.
I don't want the world to explode,
Celestia whined. Pinkie went to go comfort her.
There, let your Auntie Pinkie Pie help you.
Celestia watched as Pinkie went over to the cake. She rubbed her hooves together, cracked her neck, and opened her mouth wider than was possible. Pinkie wrapped her mouth around the cake and ate it in one bite.
There, all better.
Celestia stared at Pinkie, tears beginning to form in her eyes.
My cake.
Oh, perfect. This has been just perfect.
Discord couldn't stop laughing. His plan had worked out just perfectly. There were little Pinkie Pies running around and ruining ponies' lives everywhere. He had watched the whole day play out and couldn't have been happier with the results.
Twilight stuck home, Rainbow stuck in a tree, Applejack's out cold, Rarity's having a breakdown, Luna broke everything in her room, and Celestia's crying her eyes out over a cake. This couldn't have gone better.
Discord snapped his fingers, and within an instant, 7 little Pinkie Pies appeared before him.
Wonderful job, you all did so great.
Discord covered his ears for the blow.
Wait,
Discord interrupted.
Wait, I wasn't finished speaking words yet. You all did such a marvelous job that I have decided you should all remain permanent consciouses.
All of the Pinkies looked at each other and nodded.
Then go, my little ponies. Spread chaos and destruction to the minds of others.
Discord lay back in his chair and sipped a glass of chocolate milk. He laughed.
And to think I only watched this today. I should have started when I first sent them off 3 years ago.